Welcome back to Old School Sports and our OOTP 22 playthrough of the New York Yankees. We are at the beginning of the 2030 offseason, and it's going to be a very interesting offseason for the Yankees. We have been asked by ownership to cut payroll to $180 million by the end of this season. But we are also in the final year of our contract. We received a 1-year extension, so we are kind of a lame duck general manager at this point. So right now our payroll is over $252 million, and our thought is that we are going to kind of act like a defiant teenager with a payroll that is 70 million plus above what our ownership wants us to have for this upcoming season, in an effort to hopefully win the World Series and either save our job by winning the World Series or go out fighting as hard as we can to actually win the championship. What that means is that it's obviously going to be a pretty uneventful offseason since we have no money for free agents and extensions, and we're so far over budget on payroll that we're really not going to be able to do anything. That said, we have locked up all of our players who are going to salary arbitration, and in order to keep our catcher Francisco Alvarez, or potentially keep him, we've submitted an $18.9 million qualifying offer to him for the upcoming season. Kind of a loophole to add more money to the payroll since we're not able to actually make a formal offer to him. Hopefully he'll accept it. Obviously, we're going to be way overspending for him. But he's our best option, a solid defensive catcher, a solid offensive catcher. And since we don't really care that we're going to anger management with a huge payroll, we figured it made sense to submit the qualifying offer to him. If he doesn't accept it, then we will get some draft pick compensation. Some of the key issues we will face with our massive payroll compared to our budget is that our scouting budget and our development budget will both need to come down, as well as our budget for draftees and the international amateur free agent budget. Actually, we'll put that to zero right now, just because we won't try to sign an international free agent next year, and hopefully that will allow us to free up a little more money to sign the draft picks that we do have, and maintain hopefully some level of a scouting budget and development budget. But clearly, simple math tells us that the delta between the player payroll and our total budget right now is smaller than what we're spending on scouting and development. So those will both presumably be cut significantly by the game when the time is right, which I think is coming out of spring training. Since we have already signed all of our arbitration eligible players, and then we also picked up options on several players, notably Javier, Lance Mccullers Jr., Ryan Mountcastle, for this season. Really, we're going to have just about everybody back next year. If Alvarez accepts the qualifying offer from us, we will have the entire team back. Now, granted, we'll be a year older, but this was still a playoff team that underperformed last year. So the hope would be that if we are a little bit healthier, we can hopefully go on a longer playoff run in this upcoming 2031 season. And we've gotten to salary arbitration, and Alvarez did accept his qualifying offer for $18.9 million. So essentially we're going to have the entire team back next year, which is good. Again, we can't do anything. I don't even know that we're going to really be able to make any trades because we are so far over payroll. I guess if we made one where we cut salary, perhaps we could do it. But we're just so far over by like $70+ million that, it will probably be a relatively quiet offseason. The goal is to kind of figure out what we want the 26-man roster to look like next year, see how players kind of develop and potentially regress over the course of the offseason, and then hopefully get through spring training healthy. Obviously, we'll have the Rule 5 draft between now and then. Maybe there will be something interesting that crops up there for us to look at too. Well, since we're not really doing much of anything this off-season, we've quickly simmed ahead to the end of January, and a little more bad news that our total team budget just got cut by another $8 million by ownership. So that's going to make it increasingly difficult. You can see the payroll is at $268 million right now with a $290 million budget. So we've got about $22 million delta there to use. Right now, we've got about $10 million in development, only $5.1 million in scouting, $5 million for the draft budget, and nothing for international free agents. So it's not a great situation. I'll say that for sure. We'll play around with the numbers a little bit. I think probably the most important thing for us is to have some money to actually sign our draft picks this coming year. So from that perspective, may pull back the development budget a little bit. But going to be an interesting season for the Yankees. We are clearly not investing at all in the future, with the fact that we are $88 million above our payroll that ownership wants us to have at this point. So it's going to be a kind of disappointing year, I think, for our minor league system. Ranks 11th overall at this point. You can see we do have 5 top 100 prospects. We've got really good coaching across the system, but clearly we're not going to be spending a lot on player development this upcoming year, which probably isn't going to be optimal in terms of some of these players being able to contribute at the major league level as soon as possible. But it is what it is. As I said earlier, we are being defiant with ownership, and we are spending a ton of their money to hopefully make a run at a World Series this year, and the chips will fall where they may based on that decision. And training camp has opened as poorly as possible for a veteran team. Here we are on Saturday, March 1st. Walker Buehler out with an oblique strain for 4 to 5 weeks, and Lance Mccullers Jr. out with a sore elbow for about 4 to 5 weeks. So 2 of our top starting pitchers going to miss the entirety of spring training. So certainly off to an inauspicious start for a team that intends to try to win a World Series this year. And our starting shortstop, Bo Bichette, just suffered a bone bruise. He's going to be out for about 3 weeks, so we'll make sure that he heals up on the injured list also. But taken some lumps here in the early stages of spring training so far, that's for sure. Well, we've made it to opening day, and ownership is not pleased with us, not surprisingly. Their only goal on the field is for us to stay respectable, so I think they are being realistic about how we should perform in the context of the salary that they want us to be spending. But we are, $80+ million above that salary amount. Thus, they are upset with our performance and hoping against hope that we can make them happy this year. Our goal is going to be to do that by hopefully winning the World Series. You can see they want us to not stink. We should be a playoff team, so we should hopefully achieve that goal easily. But we are spending close to $87 million more on payroll than they want us to, which will rightfully infuriate them. You can see that meant that our scouting budget and our development budget for this coming season were both just completely slashed. And it's going to be interesting when we get to draft time, because we needed about $7 million in slot amounts for our players, and we're only going to have about $1.1 million to potentially spend there. So given that I don't have a draft pick trading on, we're going to be making those picks, but we will be looking for people who are willing to sign for almost nothing when we do the draft. So probably going to be picking up a fair amount of college-aged relief pitchers in the draft, but I guess it's better than players that we have absolutely no possibility of signing. Looking at the injury list as we begin the season, Walker Buehler still kind of suffered a setback with his oblique strain and still has an uncertain return date. So hopefully he'll be back in a few weeks and we can get him some rehab starts down in AAA. And then Anthony Volpe, our utility infielder, backup shortstop, is out with back stiffness. Only has 5 days left on the IL, although supposedly he's going to be issued for another 1 to 2 weeks. Lance McCullers Jr. is on the roster. He only got to pitch one game, 11 pitches at the end of spring training. So not much of a spring training for him. We'll see how that goes. I actually might not right now, just in the interest of being careful, am going to set him down for 50 pitch limit for his first start, at least in the majors this year. Maybe we can up it to 70 for his second start and then get him back towards 90 for his third start. That may still be pushing it a little bit much, and we may end up with him getting hurt again, but we've got to start winning some games. Looking at the pitching staff, feel like we're still pretty good this year. Javier Hackinson, Garrett Edwards, Mccullers Jr., and Josh Hartle are in the rotation. Hopefully, when he gets off his DL stint, we will be able to move Hartle out of the rotation, which would give us a third lefty in the bullpen to go with Carter Benbrook and Richard Lovelady whenever Walker Buehler is ready to come off of the IL for us. So think that we still have a very good rotation. As I mentioned, Benbrook and Lovelady are only lefties out of the pen. Jared Mahoney is a really nice arm. Seizo Murakami has probably been a little bit disappointing and injury prone since we signed him as a free agent, but he is back. Daniel Salas, solid reliever. Ken Thomas can say the same thing for the 25-year-old. Eric Upton and Tim Wallace will be closing for us again. He has had a really nice start to his career. 26 saves as a rookie and then 35 saves in his second year with us last year. In turning to our starting lineup, I think we've got the opportunity to still score a lot of runs this year. Bo Bichette going to be leading off for us. Great offensive, great defensive shortstop. Shiku Shu, former MVP, playing right field for us now, has been an offensive force ever since he came over from Taiwan. Brian Reynolds, left fielder, will be batting third. Had a solid year for us in his first year with the Yankees last year. Cody Bellinger, as he has been for most of this entire playthrough, will be batting cleanup for us, playing in center field, coming off an excellent season with 49 homers and 126 runs batted in. First baseman Ryan Mountcastle, coming off of an injury that kind of stripped him from the entire season last year. You can see he only played 19 games, did hit .324 in the limited time that he had. Hopefully he is back and fully healthy this year. Third baseman Jake Cronenworth, pretty nice bat for sixth in the batting order. Nick Gonzalez will be DHing for us, can also play a variety of infield spots for us. You see first, second, and third, so good guy to have in the clubhouse, a leader. And will be our regular DH, but can also pitch in the infield when people need a day off. Francisco Alvarez on the massive $18.9 million one-year contract. Since we extended him the qualifying offer, will be catching. And then Jose Montoya, the youngster at second base, was once the top prospect in our system, coming off his first full season in the majors last year. Only a 69 OPS plus and a 67 WRC plus. Did put up a 1.2 WAR. excellent defensive player who can certainly back up at shortstop for us when we need a backup for Bichette, but hoping that his offense this season takes a step forward at the age of 24. Obviously, when Walker Buehler is done with his minor league, well, first of all, when he's healthy, and then when he's done with his minor league assignment, clearly he will be joining the major league roster. Anthony Volpe, a little bit more of a different situation. Love the defensive versatility. He can play any position in the infield, not necessarily at a plus level, but he can play it for us in a pinch. Just not much of a hitter historically through his major league career, unfortunately. But he still may have a chance to get onto the major league roster because of the defensive versatility. The decision we're going to have to make is whether we would want to send down or get rid of Blake Klassen, backup first baseman, Chase DeLauder, a left fielder, or Jason Dominguez, who his career has really kind of taken a step in the wrong direction over the last season. Was off to a just brilliant start in his career with over 30 homers each of his first 4 full seasons, kind of regressed and moved into a kind of utility role, backup outfielder role for us last season. And you can see from his ratings at this point that although he has decent gap power, as others talk about frequently in videos like this, gap power isn't always necessarily the most valuable skill to have, and his contact and his home run power and his eye and discipline are average at best at this point, maybe even a little below average, and he also strikes out a lot. So, looking at his scouting record, he peaked, a few seasons ago, really, in terms of what our scout thought of him, with 55 contact, 60 power, and 50 eye, and has kind of regressed on all of those metrics over the past few seasons, which is unfortunate. So he is making a ton of money this year too, with a salary of $10 million. Going to be hard to imagine him earning that. So he is someone that we would consider trading away potentially if anyone will take him off our hands. That will do it for this episode. Again, it was a relatively quiet off season because we just had no money to spend, and it's going to be interesting to see how this season goes. We probably need to win it all to have any hope of keeping our job, and we are being so difficult with ownership in terms of spending so much more than they want us to, that even a win of the World Series may not allow us to keep our job. But that will be resolved in the coming episode. Thank you so much for watching, and hope you have a great day.